Hi folks, this is Dave Higgins. We're going to talk about how to expand the canvas, add a sky, and do some perspective correction on this image. Now I already have gone in and cropped the image and done my color adjustments and have it all ready to go. The next step is that when I shot this, I was downhill from the lighthouse, which caused a certain amount of distortion. Now, an easy way to tell if you have distortion in your image is to pull in these blue guidelines from the edge. Use the straightest line closest to the edge of the image, which is the flagpole. Now, if we move it in to the edge of the building, we can still see that it's crooked. So I'm going to set this by the flagpole. I'm going to pull another blue line in and put it beside the bell house. And we can see that that's crooked. Now I want to make sure that horizontally it's straight. So I'm going to bring it down and go to the roof. And the roof appears to be straight. But I'm going to leave that there as a guideline for when I make my adjustments. Now I need to go up and go to Select All. Then we need to go to Transform. And go to Distort. With this, we can now grab the handles and move the picture independently. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to straighten up the flagpole. So we grab and we drag it straight over until the flagpole lines up with the blue line. Now we're going to do the same thing on the other side until the building is straight. Now the flagpole is straight, the ridgepole is still even, and this side is even. So we now know that the perspective on the image is corrected. Now when you do this, it makes the image look squashed. The lighthouse doesn't look as tall as you should anymore. So you have to expand the image vertically. Now I'm going to take it quite a bit beyond just to make it look right. I'm going to take it and distort it to have it be extreme because I want to emphasize the height of the lighthouse. And besides, Pemaquid is sort of a short, stubby lighthouse. Let's give it some height. Now that we have corrected the perspective, we want to select and remove the sky that's in the image because we want to put in one that's much more powerful. So the way I do that is I come on up and I go to the Magic Selection tool. Now you can set the tolerance on this tool, which determines how great a range of color it will pick. I have it set at 15. Each image requires a little different setting and you have to sort of experiment. If it's selecting too much, it's going into the area that you want to save, then just keep reducing the tolerance until it works the way you want it to. Now this is a perfect image for this technique because we don't have any wispy little details like in the edges of trees and things like that. We got nice solid hard lines which are going to make it very easy to select the image. So now all I have to do is I also have duplicated the bottom layer so that we'll be able to compare results. So I'm going to click, hold down the Shift key, continue to click. Now if you had a higher tolerance it would do this faster, but it would also be more likely that it would pick out parts of the lighthouse that you do not want to delete. Now you see we have a nice clean line across here. Now we're just going to come on up and pick up all of these other little places. Click over here, still holding down the Shift key. And we have everything now selected. Now if this was a more difficult selection, you can go on up here to this Refine Edge tool and that'll help you clean it up if you have some really tough areas to go around. Now we have to zoom in because you have to remember you've got to select all of the areas, including the interior spaces, such as inside of the railing here. So we'll go ahead and hit those. They're a little tough to get in there sometimes, but you can always zoom in further. So that's good enough for what we're going to do. Hit delete, and we've now made our selection. And we can see that we've gone up and turn off the deselect the edges. If I turn on the bottom one, there it is with it, there it is without it. Now the next step is we have to add some space, because I want to have the clouds be very powerful and dominant, so they have to take up a greater space in the area of the image. I also want to emphasize the verticalness of this image, so we're going to do a long vertical crop to add space to the image. I'm going to zoom back out because we need to have the space so that we can see what we're doing. I'm going to grab the crop tool, and then we're just going to drag it straight up, and this is going to add us vertical space to the image. Click the tool, and there it is. We now have the vertical space that we're going to need to be able to put the sky into. Now we're going to go get the sky. This is a sky I've just cropped out of another image. We're going to go to copy, go back to the original image we want to work on, and we're going to say paste. And we can see that it doesn't fit the way we want it to. It's way too small, but that's alright, because with this technique all you have to do is just grab the sky and just drag it until it fills the space, and you don't have to do it proportionally. I'm actually vertically distorting the sky because I can get a much more powerful cloud that way. Now you say, but you can't see the lighthouse. Well, when we pasted it in, it put it on its own layer. We have to make sure that that layer is under, whoops, I got to click for the crop, under the lighthouse layer. Now we can fine-tune this. Now I can put this any place I want it to be. I can use this over here. That's one sky interpretation. I don't think that's anywhere near as dynamic as I want it. I can bring it over here, and I can now have that blue area come right around the edge of the lighthouse. And this is how you get a really dynamic effect, because you can place this sky any place you want it to be. So now that we've got it where we want it to be, we're going to click the, just click on the outside. Then we're going to grab the crop tool again, and now we're going to bring it down to the working height that we want to have on the image. Double click or click the check mark, and we now have the sky in the image where we want it to be. Now they don't match. When you put a sky into the image, you have to be very careful. You see the sun is coming from this direction, but in this particular sky there's no direction for the sunshine, so it's easy enough for me to manipulate it. But if you're doing a sunset scene and you can actually see the direction of the light striking the clouds, you got to make sure that that matches the direction of the light source in the original image. So in this case they just don't match tonally. So we're going to go in and adjust this layer. First thing I'm going to do is the levels. Now when you do this, down here you see this little box with the arrow coming off from it. If you click that, it will only adjust the layer immediately under the layer that is above. So when I do this, it's only going to adjust the cloud layer. It's not going to affect any other layers in the image. If you don't click that, it adjusts every layer under it. So we're going to play with these a little bit, try and get the values to match. Okay. Click over here, turn it on, turn it off. Now that's alright. What we're going to do next is we're going to do a contrast adjustment to try and get the contrast to match. Now here's a little trick for you. if you go to this pull down menu up here in the corner and you hold down the Option key and go down to Merge Visible, it will merge only the visible layers and put it on its own layer. And now we can move that to the top of the pile. It's a quick, easy way to merge several different layers together and still maintain the integrity of being able to go back and use those layers. If you just say merge, it merges them and you don't have the chance to manipulate those layers any further. So now we're going to go in, get brightness and contrast, and we're going to now try and get the contrast of the sky to match the lighthouse. So the lighthouse is pretty contrasty, so we want the sky to be fairly close. There we go. And we can turn those on and off to check them. Now we're just going to go up and do merge down again. Now they're pretty close. From here, you would go ahead and do your adjustments using the other tools to create the image you want. Now I have another image in here that I've already worked, and I'll go to that so that we can see what I ended up with. This is the black and white image which I made using the NYX FX Silver Effects. This is another variation of the same thing without the toning. Here is the color image that was made using Topaz Simplify and then Topaz Impressions using the pencil sketch, the pencil mode. Another variation of that. This is with no under or very little orange undercoating, and this is with more. You can see how it gets a little bit more dynamic with that. Here's the image with no undercoating, and there's the original. You can see how that distortion vertically really gives the picture a lot more power. That's it, folks. I hope you found this helpful. If you do, click the like button for me. It's important.